Good morning. Glad you're here with us. If you're visiting with us, you're indeed our honored guest, and we'd certainly invite you back any opportunity you have. Let me begin with a good news announcement. Yesterday afternoon, Michael Darian was baptized into Christ. TJ baptized him. He is the son of Marvin and Michelle Darian. So if you see them this morning, be sure and hug Michael and the family and welcome him. So it's good news. We tend to gravitate toward those that we have things in common with. The young couples gravitate together towards one another because they're at that same juncture in life. The empty nesters do because, well, they're talking about, their kids, how they've handled their kids leaving home for college, or how they've handled their kids, marrying them off and they've moved on maybe to another state. They're at the same intersection in life, so it's easy for them to gravitate toward one another. The MOPS ministry, these mothers of preschoolers, this time together a couple times a month where these moms can sit and talk about how they deal with their little toddlers and preschoolers at home and the issues they have as young families, and it's easy for them to gravitate towards one another because they have so much in common. I want you to know there's something that all of us have in common this morning. Paul simply put in Romans 3:23 said it's sin. All of us sin. All of us fall short of the glory of God. The one thing everybody has in common is everybody sins. But let's break it down and get a little more specific this morning. I believe there's a specific sin that we have in common. You say, well, what's that? Would it be sexual sin? Would it be gossip? Hatred? Lack of forgiveness? We could go on and on. Jesus spoke about it in his Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 6 in verse 25 when he says, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry." Do not worry. And I want to begin there with you this morning. I want you to see worry is a sin. And we wrestle with that. In fact, we really struggle with that because we don't like to think about worry being a sin. We really don't want to accept worry as a sin. We want to accept worry as a natural part of life. If you have kids, you worry about your kids. We're pushing our little man or our little girl off to first grade or kindergarten, and then lo and behold, they're graduating high school, and now we're moving them into college, and oh, wow, now they're getting married. So every juncture, every phase in life brings a few worries for parents, and I think we would all agree and say, that's right, worry can't be a sin. But when Jesus says, do not worry, it's wrong. It's a sin. You've heard that it was said, do not commit adultery. We say, oh yeah, that's bad. Adultery's a sin. And Jesus says in verse 28 of chapter 5, but I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. We say, oh yeah, that's bad. We got the lust thing, man, that's wrong. Adultery, that's wrong. What about if we look up a few verses? You've heard that it was said to the people long ago, do not murder. Oh, murder is really bad. And anyone who murders will be subject to judgment, verse 21, Matthew 5. But I tell you that anyone who's angry with his brother will be subject to judgment. So he's saying, yes, murder's a sin. We don't have a problem with that. We get that. Absolutely, it's a sin. And this whole idea of hating your brother, oh yeah, that's wrong. We don't struggle accepting those as sins, but when we get in the arena of worry, we're going, oh, wait a minute now, come on. Is that really a sin? When Jesus says, do not worry, folks, that makes it wrong. That means it's a sin. Do not commit adultery. Yeah, we get that. Do not murder. I understand. Then why do we think differently of do not worry? Worry is a sin because it's the complete opposite of faith. That the Hebrew writer would define faith for us in Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 1 when he says, now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. And then Paul would say in 2 Corinthians 5 and verse 7, we live by faith, not by sight. Our walk every day is less about what we see and what we focus on physically and more about our faith. And we're living every day by faith. We should. So worry is a sin because worry is the complete opposite of walking by faith. Worry is walking by sight. We see, when I'm worried about something, my eyes aren't on God. I'm focused on the situation or the circumstances at hand. I see the Darians now. I missed you a minute ago. I apologize. Glad you're here. So I'm focused on this situation or the circumstances and how am I going to solve this problem? How am I going to take care of this? How's this going to affect my family? What's this going to do with our future? I mean, all these questions come up and my focus is solving the problem, taking care of the issue, and my eyes are not on God. Folks, that's why worry is a sin. Worry's I don't know. Am I doing something wrong up here? Yeah, man, you're talking too much, huh? Is that it? It just happens when I step up here. I want you to look in Matthew 14 with me for a minute. Hold your place in Matthew 6 because that's where we're going to spend most of our time together today. Worry is a sin. We struggle, we wrestle, we debate about that. Well, you know, it's one of those little white sins. Folks, a sin's a sin, okay? From murder to adultery to worry to a white lie to a black lie. And I don't ask me to define the difference because I don't know, okay? But I've just heard people say, well, that's a little white lie. Well, it's still, that's how we say it in the South too. That's a little white lie. It's a lie, though. It's a sin. And worry is the opposite of faith. Let me illustrate what we're talking about. In Matthew 14, during the fourth watch of the night, I'm in verse 25, middle of the night, Jesus went out of them walking on the lake. You're familiar with this story. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they're terrified. It's a ghost, they cried out in fear, and you would be too. You've been in a boat, you've been on a lake or in the river, and you can just imagine being there. And if you're on the lake, in a boat, on the lake, at night, it's dark. I mean, can't see your hand in front of your face, dark. And then you see this, whatever it is, coming to you, walking on the water. I mean, that's a terrifying sight. Jesus said to him, hey, it's me, calm down. Immediately he said, take courage, it's me, don't be afraid. Lord, if it's you, Peter, tell me to come to you. Peter replied, tell me to come to you on the water. And Jesus said, come. Peter gets down out of the boat. What faith it took to step out of the boat. I think I'd have been the guy that said, well, can we just wait till you get here and see your face? But he gets down out of the boat and he walks toward Jesus on the water. One guy said it this way, Peter never walked on the water. That guy didn't read the scriptures very clearly. Peter got down out of the boat and walked on the water and came toward Jesus. He walked on the water not because of his own abilities and powers, but because Jesus said, come. And so he walked on the water. But here's the problem. He got worried. Worry set in, and it happens in our lives. But when he saw the wind, he's in the middle of the water. When he saw the wind, he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried out, Lord, save me. This fear comes from this worry. The wave or the wind would bring waves, and maybe there was rain, maybe there was thunder, maybe there was lightning. I don't know exactly what it looked like, but I know it was rough. And I know he's not in a boat, he's on the water. And I know he's never been on the water like that before. Worry sets in and he screams, he cries out in fear. Because he took his eyes off Jesus. That's why worry's a sin. Because it's not living by faith. It's removing my eyes from God, and I'm going to handle this myself. I'm going to focus on my circumstances. And it's so easy to come in here some 2-3 times a week and give God a good hour or longer of total and complete focus on Him, right? We can pull up the app, what's it called? The YouVersion Bible, is that right? Is that what it is? We can pull that up. We can follow along. Man, we got the PowerPoints. We've got it going on. We can stay completely focused for this hour on the Lord. And no worries. The worries are out. But when we step out of here, do we pick them back up? Do we take our eyes off Him and focus on that? Because worry is a sin. We got to move on. Get back to Matthew 6 with me. Secondly, we just got to drive that point home. Worry's a sin. It's not right. It's wrong. And he's going to go deeper into this in Matthew 6. Verse 25, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you'll eat or drink, about your body, what you'll wear. Is not life more important than food, and the body more important than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Let's stop there for a minute. So secondly, he says, don't worry. Don't worry about your physical needs. And those are the things we tend to worry about the most. And maybe it's not, do I have clothes, but do I have the right clothes? Maybe that's more our problem today. I don't know. There are those that worry about just having clothes. Do I have food? And this word, from what I understand, that covers clothes there also is making reference to shelter too. So the things that Jesus says specifically, you don't need to worry about what you're going to eat or drink. You don't need to worry about your clothes or your shelter. Those are the things we tend to worry about. Because those are the necessities. We've got to cover our body. We've got to nourish our body. We've got to make sure we have some form of shelter. And yet those are the things Jesus says, hey, I've got this. You don't have to worry about this. Notice what he says in verse 26. I like how he illustrates. Look at the birds of the air, and we see birds constantly. Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap, store away in barns. They're not worried about food and what they're going to eat, or having the barn for shelter, or storing food there. They're not worried about those things. And he says, your heavenly Father feeds them. And then he asks this big question, are you not much more valuable than the birds? Don't you remember where you are in the creation? Don't you remember that you are the greatest creation that God ever created? You're more important than the birds. He provides for the birds. He cares for them. He feeds them. They're good. And if He feeds and He cares for the birds, don't you think, since you're more valuable than the birds, that He's going to feed, He's going to care for you? Look at verse 28 and 29. He says, don't worry about your clothes. See how the lilies of the field grow? They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you, and listen to this, I tell you that even Solomon, and the wisest of men and one of the richest, could dress the way he wanted to dress. And he says, yeah, I tell you, not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that's how God clothes the grass of the field. Now, a minute ago he called it lilies, and now he says the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire. Will He not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? Because faith is the opposite of worry. We've already said that. And he says this grass, it's clothed as well as King Solomon was ever clothed. And he says it's just going to be thrown out and burned. It's destiny's destruction. It's not a big deal. No future for the grass. But you of little faith, don't you think God's going to take care of you? If he clothes the grass of the field that's temporary, don't you think he's going to clothe you? 31 and 32. So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? Verse 32, for the pagans, the ungodly, run after all these things, and your heavenly Father, and I underline this part, knows that you need them. I want to elaborate on that. If God knows that you need them, God is a God of action. He will make sure you have what you need if he knows that you need these things. I think that's one of the most comforting passages in this section. He knows your needs. And if he knows your needs, he's going to take care of your needs. Takes care of the grass, and it's going to be burned up. Takes care of the birds, and you're more valuable than the birds. He knows your needs, and if he knows your needs, he'll provide them. I think we all go through those times in life. Maybe it's when we're younger, or maybe we go through a rough patch as we get older, but we struggle at times. But I got to tell you, and we have at times, but we've never done without. Now, there have been times we were really challenged. We're going, oh, this isn't good. This is not a good scene. This is not a good scenario. I don't know how this is going to play out. And what are we focusing on? This. And something comes in the mail, or somebody shows up, somebody's got our back, or something happens. Just kind of a reminder that says, man, I got this. Would you just relax? I've got this. You of little faith. Worry's the complete opposite of faith. And we're supposed to live and walk by faith. Worry's a sin. Do not worry about your physical needs. And I like this one, thirdly. Look at verse 27. We skipped this one, didn't we? We did that on purpose. Who of you, by worrying, can add a single hour to his life? Thirdly, worry never helps the situation. How many lay awake worrying about work at night? Didn't get this done, I didn't get that done. I've got this appointment tomorrow, and I'm not sure I know exactly what to say to this person. I didn't get those papers graded. I didn't study for that test. And we worry, and we worry, and we worry. And here's the thing, and this is kind of my philosophy, and I believe in this. If you can get up and change that, if you can get up and fix that, if you can get up and aid the situation that you're worried about, get up. You're already not sleeping. Get up and go fix the problem or make it a little better. But if there's nothing you can do about it, guess what? Relax, go to sleep, stop worrying about it. Well, that's easier said than done. What other choice do you have? It may be easier said than done. But Jesus says worry doesn't add to your life at all. By worrying about the situation, by worrying about the circumstances, it's not going to go away. It's not going to fix it. It's not going to improve. Worry never helped anything or anyone. Never. Somebody says, never say never. Just did. Because I think you can in this context. In fact, worry does manifest itself physically. Worry does have physical symptoms that associate with it. Listen, this may sound like your primary care physician speaking, but listen. With worry comes dizziness, dry mouth, fast heartbeat, fatigue, muscle aches, muscle tension, nausea, rapid breathing, and trembling. The result of worry. And the very first thing Jesus said as he began this section of his sermon, he says, I tell you, do not worry. Why? Well, number one, it's not good for you. Number two, it's a sin. because it's the complete opposite of faith. Do you remember when you were a little kid, you really didn't worry about stuff? I didn't, because I thought, my mom and dad's got this. I'm not making a house payment. I don't have to be at work in the morning. If anybody breaks in my house, my daddy can whip them. Yeah, but that's how you think. I wasn't worried about any of that stuff. Never worried about those things. Do you not realize who your Father is? You don't have to worry about those things today. Worry never helps. Look what he says in verse 34. Verse 34. He says, therefore, do not worry. Again, he says it about tomorrow. Tomorrow's Monday. We got a big meeting. We got to be there early. For tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. So Jesus says, take it one day at a time and underline this. Highlight it with the highlighter. Don't worry. Don't worry. You're not going to add anything to your life by worrying except physical symptoms that do not help your health. It's a sin. You've got physical needs and God knows them. Don't worry about them. And worry never helps the situation. Now, as we close out, let me give you 3 things to do when you worry. You need to write these down. Maybe they'll be up there for you. I think they will. 3 things to do when you worry. First of all, look at verse 33. Seek first His kingdom. Verse 33, I think this is the key passage in this whole section on worry. But seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. You don't have to worry about where you're going to sleep. If there's going to be a shelter, if there's going to be food, if there's going to be clothing. You don't have to worry about those things. God knows you have those needs. God's going to provide those things. What you need to focus on and what you need to concentrate on is seeking first His kingdom. That's it. And if you're seeking first His kingdom, you realize, my Father's got this. I'm in His hands. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and He's in control. Don't seek your kingdom first. Man, we got people that just are losing sleep every night because is it going to be Trump or Hillary? And we got people that are freaking out about November. November's coming. It's going to be here. We're going to get a new president. But I know who's in control. Even if we get a she or a he, I know who's in control. We don't need to worry about that. They just have limited. But it's corrupt. It may be. But they don't have the ultimate say or power. Man, we got to remember that. Your Father's got this. Seek first His kingdom, not your kingdom. But the next thing, give your worry to God. Look at 1 Peter 5. 1 Peter 5. Give your worry to God. 3 things to do when you worry. Seek first God's kingdom, but the next one is give your worry to God. 1 Peter 5:7, cast all your anxiety, all your worry on Him, on God, because He cares for you. God, and I like to read it like this. God cares for you so much that He asks that you cast all your worries on Him. He cares for you so much that He's willing to take your anxiety. He's willing to take your worries. The things that bog you down. He wants to take care of those things. Give your worries to God. Now here's the thing. Once you give them to Him, don't take them back. When you call the air conditioner man to come fix the air conditioner at your house because it is hot and it's not blowing cold air, so he gets out there pretty quick because it is hot outside. And as he goes out and you show him where the unit is and he begins to work on it, you don't take your tools out there and plop down beside him and say, okay, let me tell you how I want you to go about this. You kind of give that to him, don't you? You're going to be paying this bill. He's the professional. I'm trusting him. I'm not going to call him out here and then say, okay, let me tell you how we need to do this, man. That would be ridiculous. Why do we do it with God? I want to give you my worries, God. As I lay down at night, I want to give you all my concerns and my worries. We're up at 6. We're getting ready the next morning. We're in the car. We're headed to work, and we're taking them all back. No! You gave them to Him. Let Him have them. Easier said than done? Yeah. And you may have to pray all day long about that. Give them to Him. You can't do anything about them anyway. Let's get someone in here that can handle this problem. Isn't that how we think? Something goes wrong at the house. That's how my wife thinks. Let's get somebody in here that can handle this. Not you, Chuck. Somebody that can handle this. That's a true story. And that's how we need to be with our worries. Let me get somebody in here that can handle this. Who's that going to be? God. So I'm going to seek first God's kingdom. I'm going to give my worry to Him. And the last one, Philippians 4, verse 6. Just pray. Just pray. Do not be anxious. Don't worry about anything. But in everything, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. So stop worrying and just talk to God. Just stop trying to handle it yourself. I think a lot of the worry, the anxiety, and the pressure we feel is because we try to deal with our worries and our burdens ourselves. And when we realize, I don't know that I'm equipped to do this. I don't know that I know what the answer is. I don't know that I'm going to handle this the right way. And then we begin to panic. We should have given it to God a long time ago. And that relieves the pressure and the stress from us. Here's the thing, guys. When you're losing sleep over worry, pray. Prayer has, and I want you to hear this, prayer has a way of silencing our busy mind. Prayer has a way of silencing our busy mind. I tell my daughter when she goes to bed at night and she struggles with sleep, I'm saying to her, listen, you have got to not think about dance team. You've got to not think about your grades. You've got to not think about your responsibilities tomorrow. What you've got to do is let your mind relax and go to sleep. Just pray. Just pray. Sometimes we face circumstances in this life where we're going, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I'm not sure what to ask. And then maybe the answer is this. Just pray. Just pray. Just talk to God. Just talk to God. I believe that always helps. Worry's a sin. We don't have to worry about our physical needs. God knows we have them. It never helps the situation. It only hurts us physically and spiritually. As worry is the complete opposite of faith. And the three things to do when you worry, folks. Seek first His kingdom, not yours. Give your worry to God and just talk to Him. Just pray. Today, if we can help you in a physical way, if we can help you in a spiritual way, whatever your need might be. Maybe you're here today and need to respond and be baptized into Christ. Whatever your need is, we want to help you. There'll be an elder up here waiting for you if you'll come. Together we stand and as we sing.
My sins to Thee, the sins I cannot count, then all